Hello and welcome to my first ever video blog post. This video blog post is based on Lightroom 4 and some of the differences with previous versions of Lightroom. In particular, we're going to be looking at the slider changes. I know that a lot of people preferred the older sliders. I'm going to show you how you get that back. In particular, the recovery slider and the fill light sliders have now changed, and we have these new sliders. The major difference with the new sliders, I think, is, for example, the black slider. You now have a positive and a negative effect on the blacks. So if we slide to the right, we lighten the blacks, and if we slide to the left, we lower the blacks. This is a major change from the previous versions of Lightroom, and I'll show you, as I say, how you can get back the old sliders if you prefer them. I've been using Lightroom 4 now for some time, well over a year, and I've got quite used to these sliders. However, if you've been using the previous versions of Lightroom, you're probably used to the older sliders, and you know, these may not suit everybody. So, very easy. What you have to do is open up your Lightroom and come down to camera calibration. Click on this and you get the drop down. This is the part that you want to change, which is the process. If you change it from the 2012 just by clicking on it, you can drop it down to 2010. Once you do that, you will get a little warning arrow, exclamation mark, telling you that you're now on the old process. And when you come back up to the basic panel in the develop module we're in, you can now see that you have the recovery, fill light and the black slider back. So the fill light you can bring up to fill in all those kind of shadow areas, and the recovery brings back some of your highlights. As I say, the black slider though, you can now see it only has the darkening part. It was set at 5, so lowering it there to 0 did lighten up some of them, but you don't have the same range to change there. Whereas if we go to the right this time, we're darkening. So that's the major difference there, and it's as simple as changing the process in the camera calibration section. That's all for just now. Thank you for watching. I know it's a very short film, but it's so easy, and yet I know a lot of people have not been upgrading to Lightroom 4 because they didn't want to change the sliders. And as I've just shown you there just now, you can get back to those old sliders if you still want to use them. I personally prefer the new sliders. I'm going to change it back just to show you them. I think there's a lot more range, a lot more movement. You can adjust the shadows. You can see that all these have changed because they were based on what I did when it was set to the 2010. And you can see, for example, we've brightened up some of the shadows, which is your fill light, or similar to your fill light. The blacks have been lightened a bit, so I might want to bring those back down again in this one. I think there's much more scope in these sliders than the old ones. You've also got 4 sliders as opposed to the previous 3. And it does detail what you're actually controlling with these sliders as well. For example, if I'm hovering over on the highlights at the top in the histogram, you can see the section has just highlighted in a lighter grey. If I come down to shadows, you can see that there's the shadow section that's been highlighted, and similarly for whites and blacks. Now with that, what you can actually do is go over to the histogram and you can pull these sections up, and as you can see, it's moving this slider at the bottom at the same time, and that's direct off the histogram. So I could take this section, pull it across, and that's the highlights it's moving. Whites, again, you know, if you slide it, you can see it happening on the histogram, but you can actually edit direct in the histogram as well. But as I say, personally, you've now got 4 sections to play with in the old 3. And that's it for this video blog post. If you've got any questions on Lightroom, I'm happy to answer any questions, you can get me at graham@gwphotography.co.uk.